The student debt crisis doesn't exist. Yes, you heard me right. That narrative the progressives and Democrats talk about so much, about student loan debt crippling the economy and crushing the next generation, it's more fiction than fact. Let's break it down. Welcome to Breaking Brad, a series with me, Brad Polumbo, your wonderful and gorgeous host. This is a series where we break down the big picture issues in our politics that matter and look beyond the narrative and hone in on the facts. Today we're talking student debt, student loans, student debt cancellation, and all things student debt related that progressives and Democrats love to push as a narrative of an unfair situation that's trapping an entire generation. But you don't need me to summarize their views for you. Let's just hear from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited here today. What a beautiful day to liberate ourselves from student debt. What a beautiful day to liberate our future generations from the scourge of for-profit education, and by that we also mean for-profit student loan debt as well. This is such an important issue because this is not just about our future generations and our current generations, but this is about our entire economy. We are experiencing a systemic and economy-wide threat to grinding our economy to a halt because families and people in my generation, older and younger, are not buying cars, we're not purchasing homes, we are not building families because of the sector that student loan debt represents on our generation. It is unjust, and it is a burden that no generation before had to encounter to the scale and the level that ours has.
In the telling of progressives like AOC, Bernie Sanders, and others like them, student debt is a massive weight that's hanging down on today's young people and crushing their economic fortunes. Now, it is certainly true that there's $1.71 trillion in outstanding student loan debt today, and that's a lot of money. It sounds like that would be an amount that's just crushing for people, making higher education attainment all but impossible, but actually the facts are more complicated than that. You see, that sum is spread out across literally hundreds of millions of borrowers, and according to Student Loan Hero, the average monthly payment is just $300. I don't have a polite or PC way of saying this, but if you're a college graduate who can't afford a $300 monthly payment to pay off the loans for the education that will increase your lifetime earnings by over $1 million, that's your own fault. I'm sorry to tell you. You're not a victim, and it's not our job to bail you out of the economic consequences of your own decision making. You see, anybody who went to a college and chose a reasonably affordable option and chose a major that actually is productive in society and pays a good amount of money, whether it's accounting or business or STEM or anything, is going to be able to make that payment. Now, if you studied French poetry or gender studies or anything of the like, that's fine. That's your choice. But you knew ahead of time, it's publicly available information, what the starting salaries are for those kinds of majors and positions. And if you now find yourself struggling to make a $200 or $300 payment a month payment for your loans, that's nobody's problem but your own. By and large, the student debt crisis that we hear so much about is really just a crisis of personal responsibility from a generation that doesn't want to pay their own bills. And we need to be clear about one other thing. There is no such thing as free. Delete that word from your vocabulary, no matter how many times people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders go ahead and use it. There is no such thing as free. There is no such thing as debt cancellation. All that really means is that taxpayers, aka you and me, are going to have to pay off other people's student loans. In fact, forcing taxpayers, 2 out of 3 of whom didn't actually get a college degree, to pay off the loans of a relatively more educated and well-off subset of society is actually a shifting of resources from the middle and working class to the top 20%. One University of Chicago study found that the top 20%, the top 1/5 of income earners in America, they would receive 5 times more benefit from these progressive student debt cancellation schemes than the bottom 20%. That's right, it's basically a tax giveaway to the well-off, affluent, and well-educated. And let me get personal for a second. I went out of my way and really suffered and worked hard for years to not come out of college buried in debt. I could have gone to any number of really great, fancy private schools and taken 40 grand a year in debt, but I went to the most affordable public college in my state. And I worked from my first day on campus, and I graduated in just 3 years, taking courses overloads so that I could save that extra year of tuition and room and board. Now, if you just cancel student debt out of some vague notion of a crisis you've heard about from AOC, you're making people like me pay for the loans of people who didn't make those same sacrifices and decisions. That's fundamentally unfair. Now, progressives are actually completely correct when they say that tuition prices are out of control and that the cost of college is a serious problem for millions of Americans. According to CNBC, tuition rates are up more than 213% since 1988 at public colleges. That's adjusted for inflation. Meanwhile, at private colleges, prices are up 129% over the same time period. Clearly, something is wrong, and college is getting more expensive and inaccessible for people in a way that is a serious problem, even if progressive solutions and narrative have things wrong. As is so often the case, the real cause of this problem that progressives are railing against is actually the federal government itself. You see, the feds give out billions of dollars in guaranteed student loan subsidies to students across the country. But unfortunately, as basic economics would predict, this wide subsidization ends up just being captured largely by universities and colleges that raise prices in response. You don't have to take my word for this. Research published by the New York Federal Reserve found that every dollar the government gave out in subsidized loans led to a 60% rise in tuition rates. When it comes to the supposed student debt crisis, AOC and progressives like her are pushing a solution that's actually the same thing that the problem was created by in the first place. They want the federal government to spend a ton of money when that is literally what made college so expensive and left so many people with these giant loans in the first place. In this, they're falling victim to what economist Ludwig von Mises called the paradox of interventionism. Basically, government meddling messes up a market, creates a big problem, and then enterprising politicians can point to that same problem as proof that the government needs more power and more authority to go in and solve the problem that actually it was the original creator of in the first place. But we need to get off this train, and if we just blindly follow where progressives want to lead us, we'll just end up with more problems and more solutions that require handing over more of our money and delegating more of our freedoms to the people in Washington, D.C. So the next time you hear somebody talking about the student loan crisis, stop them in their tracks. It's not a crisis. It may be a problem, and we may need to do something about it, but when we allow progressives and advocates of big government to label everything a crisis, they use that as an excuse to usher in expansions of the government's authority and limitations of our freedom. That's why we need to reject this false narrative and stop accepting at face value this bogus claim that the student debt crisis is anything other than a figment of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's wild imagination. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to hit like, make sure you're subscribed, and turn on the bell notifications so you actually see my content. I don't trust the YouTube algorithm gods, and frankly, neither should you. Go ahead and let me know in the comments what you think of the supposed student debt crisis and what you did in your own life to avoid taking out tons of loans in student debt, or if you are one of those folks that's buried in debt and you think I'm dead wrong, let me know. And with that, I'll see everybody in the next video.